All right, continuing on the security issue, it could be anything from intercepted data transmitted wirelessly to loss of a physical device to unauthorized physical access to a piece of equipment that allows communication or control of part of a system. For example, how security necessary is a cash register. Very security register necessary. Only certain people should be allowed to access a cash register. So it's not just networks. It's anything that can allow access to a particular system, even your laptop or your desktop. That if it is yours or it is one being used for work and it has access to something else, then you need to control the access to both devices. That's why most IT administration centers have locks on the doors. The only people that can get in are the people that work there. And even inside there, the people that work on the equipment can only access specifically that piece of equipment or that piece of software over which they're responsible. So those are different security issues, and you would have to indicate how you would address those. All right, going into hardware needs and software needs. So hardware, what physical equipment will be necessary to implement whatever project you are working on? How much does it cost? Where might you be able to get it? What kind of options do you have on that? Software is the same thing. We've been talking about Linux. Some people in the course have Mac equipment. Some people have Windows equipment. What type of equipment is used at the organization? Would it be a good idea to change? Would it be a good idea to use that which is already there? So, and how were those choices made? Not just someone pulled out of a hat a number and said, oh, we're going to get 10 of whatever this is. No. Why was that particular piece of hardware needed? Why was that particular piece of software needed? So those are actions that go in to make a decision and a choice. So that's analyze and explain what went into the selections, an understanding of system maintenance. Something always requires updating, upgrading, fixing, repairing. It's a good idea to have someone on site, on staff, on call, consulting, outsourced, as part of the licensing agreement. All of those are part of things that IT and MIS need to address when they install any type of a system. And how long will it last? What happens after 2 years? Will the software no longer function? Will the hardware require replacement? What do you think? And you go, what do you mean? What do I think? Well, here's what I want you to do. What is the normal life expectancy for that particular piece of hardware, software, and that combination? How often does it normally require updating? How often does it normally require upgrading? How often does it normally require replacement? And for example, if the organization is using a 2007 version of something, and this is 2014, soon to be 2015, perhaps it is almost due for replacement anyway. Because always, when you propose a project, the people that are going to release the money are the ones that require convincing that, oh, this is really the best because, and you'll listen to this, a lot of times someone says, well, we need to upgrade the system. And then the immediate response from the finance folks is, well, we just did it 6 years ago, right? Okay. And then you say, well, it has a life expectancy of 5 years. We're a year overdue. And then they say, well, you mean we're going to throw all that money away? And you say, no, by depreciation, it is already completely depreciated, so it has no value. And so now we're justifying replacing hardware and software. You have to have a good, firm justification, not just because it's new or because It's better. It's because it will do this for us, and it is a more convenient time to do it now, perhaps, than later. All right. Final cost analysis. So you have upfront cost and total cost of ownership. What does that mean? Well, that means that you had to buy it to begin with, right? So that's the upfront cost. And sometimes something may require distributing the cost over a period of time. What does that mean? Well, it means that we bought something and it will require a new license every so often. So that's part of the cost over time. Or it will require, when we just sit through talking about upgrades and updates, so much per year for retraining, so much per year for upgrades. So all in all, over the next 5 years, it will cost this much. So if you're intending to keep your project running for more than a week or a year, you might want to see what it will cost to keep it running. If you build a website, maybe it is only $10 a year with a license fee of, however much websites cost nowadays to own the name or something. And so you just spread that out. You say at the end of the time, at the end of 5 years, we will have spent this, and then we have to spend it again. Okay. Organizational culture related to technology changes. All organizations relate differently to change, period. Period. Just change. Technology slaps everybody in the face. And so you go, okay, how does this organization react to technology change? Some organizations are hungry and thirsty. They want to change. Really, everybody wants to change because they're doing things literally out of a shoebox. And I have talked to owners of restaurants that did that. And they were quite happy with their shoebox. And somebody came in, one of their employees, and said, we can replace that. And they went, no. Well, that was that. But that organizational culture said, we will not change. Other organization cultures will say, we will, or we have in the past supported this type of effort. And so, how will your organization react as a whole? Not just the MIS folks. They're usually gung-ho for anything that's new. All righty. And how will you identify success or failure? Initially, in this problem statement, you said, this is what we expect. This is why we expect to see it. So, how are you going to measure whether you met those expectations? Will you sell more of whatever it is? Will customers tell you on your surveys that this was a much better experience? Well, you need to have the surveys. You need to say, I'm going to measure with a survey. You need to say, I'm going to look at the difference in income between this year and that year and take other factors into account, whatever they might be. And as a result, I will be able to tell whether it was a success or a failure. You cannot just say, it will be easier. How do you know? Without testing and checking and asking. All right, then it's on to efficiencies will be created. See, everyone says, well, yeah, the organization will be more efficient. Maybe not. Maybe not. So how do you test? Well, you have to measure. Will it be easier for people to, for example, enter transactions? Will it take 2 seconds instead of 5? Okay, it's more efficient. But when the system starts outputting data and no one knows how to use it, or they do know how to use it and it takes too long for them to figure out what it means, now you've lost that 2 seconds, right? So will it be more efficient? How will you be able to tell? That's a different question from just success or failure, because efficiency is not the only success criteria. And you go, wait a minute. Well, yes, really it is not. And here's why. Yes, efficiency is one criteria, but overall, if efficiency increases, then something else will also change. Overall organization performance, overall organization profit. fewer people having to be employed by the organization because the system can now operate under less control. So you saved money. So there is efficiency, and there's the difference between that and the previous question. All right, and then the last one, ROI, on the initial cost outlay and cost savings from the efficiencies. Oh, well, what does that mean? All that means is look at the initial cost for the investment. And you had that somewhere up there where you were talking about hardware, software. You're going to get some numbers on that. Do the best you can. It does not have to be perfect. So you'll have some sort of dollar value on the initial investment. And then you will have some sort of return on that investment. And for example, using the 2 and 3 second thing again, if you go, okay, well, it's 2 seconds less and 2 seconds less for so many hours a day for so many people, and you'll be able to come up with some kind of a figure. And please do not sit there and figure 2 seconds. That was just an example. Look at what the gain is to the organization, the monetary gain, because remember, you're trying to sell this to somebody that has the money to give it to you to buy. That's what you're doing when you're proposing this. It's like a project proposal. It's an outlay, and this is what it will cost us, and so we should really do this because it will have a good return on investment. That is what ROI means. And a good return on investment means the amount of money spent, total spent for the initial outlay. That means hardware, software, and if you need some training up front, some training, so throw that in there, add that up, and then divide that by what you expect to see in effects on profit, for example. And actually do not use profit. You'll want to use gross income. Whatever the gross income change would be over that period of time. What would it be? So that's how you figure return on investment. And go look that up. Look up return on investment, find the formula, and put an example in there. And you go, I don't know. Well, that's okay. Do the best you can, because a lot of times you will not know. But remember, you're trying to get somebody that has money to give it to you, and they're not going to give it to you unless they can be proven in their own little mind that it's better for them to give it to you than to give it to someone else. And that's the big deal, because you're always competing with someone else for organizational funding. All right, so that should be all of the points. Make sure you address each and every one of them. This is the end of part 2. Good luck on the project. Questions, contact me. Call me. Have fun.